I read every comment on my last video about why I closed our on-farm market, and wow, you folks left me some great recommendations, suggestions, and more questions. So in today's video, we're going to dive even deeper into my decision on why I chose to close our on-farm market. So if you haven't seen my last video on why I closed down our farm market, you might want to check that one out first, just to understand some of the backstory. I shared some brief history of my vegetable farming journey that ultimately led me to closing down our farm market after 24 years. In this video, I want to address a huge reason that ultimately caused us to close down our market, other than the privacy issue that we talked about last time. That was the final nail in the coffin that I failed to mention in the prior video. And then I want to also address some of the suggestions and recommendations that came up over and over in the comments. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. I know I don't have to explain myself for my reasonings for closing my market. And hopefully this video doesn't come across as me trying to defend my decision. The reason I do this is because I like to share my story here on my farm. And I hope my experiences can help others who may be in a similar situation. And I learned so much from you fine folks in the comments. All right, let's dive in. All right, the first thing I'd like to address that came up in the comments over and over again was, why don't I just move my farm market down the road to a different location to address this privacy issue that I discussed in detail in the last video? Now, I know for some farms that works. Those that maybe run a smaller operation on an honor system, or are only open for a couple months at a busy intersection, and they can set up a temporary structure that they travel back and forth to. The reason that would not work for my operation, and the reason it's not realistic, is because of the massive embedded infrastructure here at my home farm. So not only do we have 5 greenhouses that are concreted into the ground that would take me months to take down and move. Not that that necessarily has to be done, but that is one of the many things that are here on the farm that I don't ever have a desire to move or have to shuttle crops back and forth from the greenhouses to this new stand that we potentially could build down the road. We also have buried electric lines, buried water lines, water hydrants all over the farm in convenient locations and in the greenhouses. If I were to move my market to a new location, I wouldn't have any of that. I'd have to start over from scratch, or not have it, or run generators. We also have 2 walk-in coolers that keep our product cool, and you can't beat the convenience of being able to just open the door and walk 5 feet from the cooler to the market for putting out fresh produce. And of course, we have our farm market itself. I have no desire to build a new farm market down the road in a different location and starting from scratch. It's just something I'm not interested in doing this far into my career. So there would be a lot of expense, time and labor, planning to move an established farm market to a new location. And like I said, that could work for some operations, but I don't feel it's realistic for mine. So this leads me right into my next topic. And I was very surprised that I only saw this come up in the comments like 2 or 3 times. And I think it's a really good way to address the privacy issue that I talked about in my prior video. And that is, why not move? Now, I'm not talking about moving my actual home. Yes, that could be done, but that would be a major expense to move an entire house. What would be easier is to leave that house there. My wife and I have always dreamed of downsizing, minimizing, decluttering, moving into a small little cabin or a cottage, maybe something turnkey, maybe something we build from the ground up on our own property. I don't know. But that would solve everything. And then I could rent out our home to someone that maybe has an interest in farming here at Wishwell Farms, or even running the farm market, or helping in the greenhouses. So that would solve a lot of the privacy issues. Actually, it would solve all the privacy issues. I would not be there anymore, and we would be in our new place down the road on a little piece of our farm property, away from all the hustle and bustle of customers coming in and out of our property. And to elaborate on that just a little bit further, we actually had blueprints drawn up for building a house about a mile down the road back in 2012. And I thought it was going to happen. Some things fell through and the idea kind of got swept under the rug. Life happened, the raising kids. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really into wanting to build a new house. At the time, the privacy thing didn't bother me so much. It was mainly my wife and us trying to raise our 3 children here. But now that we're both empty nesters, I'm kind of glad we didn't build that house, because it would have been a larger house with multiple bedrooms for our 3 children. But now that we're empty nesters, that large of a house is not necessary. And I'm starting to get the itch to maybe build something here on the property away from our farm market. And that would give me and my wife a lot of peace. And that is worth a lot. So another suggestion that came up in the comments quite often was, why don't you move your driveway and put up privacy gates? And these are both things that my wife and I have discussed many times over the years. Let me show you my driveway. So we have our house sitting in the middle of a U-shaped driveway. So we would always use this one as our exit. And this other side we would use as our entrance. And as you can see, it's a straight shot right to the front of our market. So we have talked about this in the past of possibly making a new entrance over here somewhere. The basketball court or this concrete pad kind of gets in the way, as does this greenhouse. It'd be really nice if the entrance and the parking was all over here to our market, and then we could block off this entrance or have a privacy gate there, and that would be our private residence entrance. So that is something that could have been done, but like I said, this concrete basketball court and this greenhouse kind of messes that up. And this area is where we displayed our pumpkins for 23 years. So that would ruin that location for displaying our pumpkins. And right out there in this field, on the other side of the grass, is where we had our mums. I'll throw a couple pictures up real quick of what it looks like with the pumpkins in our yard and the mums out in the field. So between those things all together, I just don't see how having a new driveway entrance could be done now. It'd be very difficult and it'd be very expensive. Now, as far as having a privacy gate, I still think about that, because even after being closed for 2 years, we still have random people drive through here thinking we're open during the summer months. So having a privacy gate there would be great. I just think it would get to be an issue having it open and closed for our employees coming and going every day. UPS, FedEx, Amazon, my wholesale supplier that brings me vegetables during the summer that I don't grow. I mean, there's probably many more reasons I'm not thinking of. In the end, I don't really think it solves the privacy issue, and that's mainly because of being on this busy US highway. Yes, the gate would help, but I think that would be a big pain, opening and closing it multiple times throughout every day because of all the reasons I listed. But I do really appreciate the suggestions in the comments. All right, now I'm ready to dive into that huge reason that ultimately made our decision to close that market that I failed to talk about in the prior video. So, to start this off, we need to go back a few years. I was in the middle of growing our business in the early to mid 2000s, and I had some friends that I would bump into from time to time at farmers markets that were also doing farmers markets. They had an operation bigger than ours, and they also, in addition to their farmers markets, they did something they called satellite markets. And they did not have an on-farm market because they were out in the middle of the country. There was no way they could draw enough business to their home farm because of where they were located in southeast Ohio. So they built trailers that they would set at busy intersections in big cities out away from their farm, and they would leave their trailers there permanently throughout the summer months, and they would stock them up each morning. They would hire college kids to run them that were from those cities, and then they would make a round at night and pick up all the leftover produce and drive it back home to the farm, and repeat the same thing every day throughout the summer. And there's a couple other farms around Ohio that do this. There's another one up in the Findlay, Lima, Ottawa area that have been doing this for years and years. They have little red barn markets, they call them. And I liked that idea, so I thought I would tinker with that a little bit. I built myself a mobile market trailer. I found out about these peddler trailer kits that you can buy to build on top of a utility trailer. I'm gonna throw some pictures up right now so you can see what I'm talking about. The kit comes with a steel frame and a canopy that you put over the top, and you can fold the wings up and down so you can travel down the highway. We built shelves out inside this mobile produce trailer, is what we call it. So we can load it up here at the farm, take it to a busy intersection, a parking lot by a busy intersection, sell for the day, fold it back up, and bring it home at the end of the day to unload it and do the whole process over again the next day. So about 15 years ago is when we built our first one. And at that time, we were still doing really well here. And I was still putting a fair amount of focus and energy into running our on-farm market, but also at the same time, we were building our farmers market part of the business. And I liked the idea of doing one of these satellite markets. So I built one of these trailers out, and we started going to a parking lot near a busy intersection in Marysville, Ohio, just 30 miles down the road. And we set up in a Rite Aid pharmacy parking lot. And we were there for probably 6, 7, 8 years. And then they closed down, and now there's a Sheetz there, so we had to move. But we've been going there for nearly 15 years. It works so well for us. And we have built a great clientele in Marysville that support our local trailer. They can't wait for us to be there every year. And I'm actually in the process of looking for a second location in Marysville, so maybe we can send our second trailer there several days a week. We do really, really well there. And when I say really well, it is now 35% of our business. So this right here, what I'm getting ready to tell you right now, these financials, was the nail in the coffin for closing this down. This will explain everything, and a lot of you will understand why I made this decision after you hear this. So 35% of our gross sales come from that satellite trailer. 65%, the other 65% comes from farmers markets. There's where our 100% of our sales come from. 65% at farmers markets, 35% from that one trailer. And when this market was running, it never accounted for more than 15% of our sales. But it was about 75% of my headaches. That's when I realized that it wasn't even worth keeping this open because of the amount of money I was making off of that trailer. And that is why I also built a second one, but I've never really found a location that worked out great for the second one. We now take it to a Saturday farmers market and a Honda market. Honda Manufacturing of America is just down the road 25 miles, so we take it there once a week. So we do use it 2 or 3 days a week, but it doesn't go out 6 days a week like the main one does. So there you have it. The satellite trailer is our cash cow. It makes us so much money. And even if we didn't have the farmers markets, that trailer, we could probably survive alone just on that trailer. Or if we could quit doing the trailer and just survive on farmers markets. But 15% of my sales is all I would get if I would open that back up. Now, I'm not saying I couldn't grow it. Let's just say I did close down the satellite trailer for some reason and stop going to farmers markets, and I had to grow this. I'm sure I could. With the right marketing and advertising and maybe being open longer throughout the year, more months and more hours, maybe adding some more pick your own back into our operation, I'm sure we could build it back up to being 30, 40% of our business of what it is now. But it will never be able to compete with doing 7, 8 farmers markets like we're doing now. And I don't think it could ever touch what that trailer does. So that is the main reason, because of that trailer, that we decided to close this market and concentrate on making sure that thing was going out every day of the week except Sunday. We do close on Sundays. And this just started going by the wayside. When we had both of them going at the same time, we managed, but it was tough because sometimes I would be short-staffed and if I had to choose one or the other, do we leave the home market open or the trailer? It was a no-brainer to send the trailer because it would bring home 4 times more money than we would make here today. So that is the main reason that I wanted to explain, and hopefully that makes sense to a lot of you. If you are a farmer that has a roadside stand or a little pop-up market at the end of your driveway, maybe it's even on an honor system, and you're thinking about upping your game a little bit, or wanting to do a satellite location, a second location from your home market, kind of like we're doing, I would highly recommend checking out Rainbow Industries in Springfield, Ohio. That's who manufactures these kits for these peddler trailers. They also make one for a wagon. They also make one for a back of a pickup truck. So they have a lot of different options, and they also make great big tents for, you know, maybe agritourism, you know, during pumpkin season if you need a big covered area. So yeah, check out Rainbow Industries and tell them I sent you. Alrighty folks, thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. I always enjoy sharing stories about my farming journey. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. For those of you who have lived on site with your business, if you have any stories to share, let me know down in the comments below. I love reading them. My wife loves hearing about them. So looking forward to seeing what you guys leave down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you all again next time down on the farm.